Hailing frequencies open, and welcome to Star Trek Discoverage, the live podcast that boldly goes into excruciating detail about this week's episode of Star Trek Picard. I'm your host, Aaron Coker, a.k.a. Caliban, and sorry, Elnor, one day you'll get to go on that fishing trip with JL. Joining me on the show, as usual, is my co-host. She's also the co-host of the Generations Geek podcast, a more or less family-friendly celebration of geekdom. It's Ella Pearson. Ella, welcome back to Discoverage.
Thank you.
Oh, great to have you here. Great to know that you are doing okay. You are doing okay.
I mean, I'm 22, so I'm...
What does that mean? That doesn't mean anything.
It means I'm going to survive the pandemic.
It means you can give it to other people. I hope you're isolating. I know you're not doing any school.
No, it's online class for the rest of the semester, and they tried to cancel our commencement because I'm a graduating senior.
Yeah.
And then, understandably, they got a lot of very angry emails, and then they sent out another email saying that commencement is postponed without addressing at all that they had just said it was canceled.
Yeah. So, are you going to walk then, or what?
I mean, they didn't give a date range at all. They weren't like, oh, in July, if everything's fine, we'll do it. Yeah. I'm a little skeptical because I'm in the biggest college at the University of Minnesota, CLA, and this year, for the first time, they actually split the commencement ceremony into, like, two, because it was getting so large.
Right.
So, no, might have to make my own cardboard square to put on my head, so we'll see.
So are you just watching the movies at home, or how's it work?
I mean, when I do watch the movies, yeah. Oh my God, I just had an algebra lecture over Zoom.
Yeah.
And I'm just here to say that it's a joke.
Algebra, Zoom, or having a lecture over Zoom?
All of the above. Well,
okay,
Zoom is
a
joke. Zoom seems like a nice app, but
it is. It is. It's way better than Skype as we talk on Skype, so don't listen Skype. But yeah. It's way better.
But it's okay because my professors still don't know how to use it, so it's fine.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that'll all work itself out and you'll actually get to walk across the stage. Or do you even, is it just a situation where you just like stand up and they acknowledge you and you sit down? It's so big.
You know what? That's a good question. I don't know. I think
maybe you'll never know. Yeah.
That's true.
Well, anyway, hope you continue to be healthy and practice that social distancing. It's not tough for me. I'm a gold medalist at social distancing, so it's not that tough. But it has left me time to think about this world we live in this Star Trek world that we live in, and the fact that, we've got these new shows, and the themes to the shows have been I've been somewhat underwhelmed by them. I don't think that there's a lack of artistry in them, but I feel like, trying to follow in the footsteps of a Jerry Goldsmith or whoever, it's just they lack the sort of bombast that earlier themes do, even Enterprise included. Take it as it is. The Enterprise theme song is memorable, and so it's something that you can look back on. And the theme for Discovery is okay. The theme for Picard is okay. I find myself kind of humming it to myself, what I know of it, now and again. It's not bad, but I hope that the future themes for the future shows that they have planned will maybe go in a brand new direction, something that will be memorable for people, or who knows. Maybe
I'd love another country song as much as the next guy, but I also think like the themes from the other shows, it's like when you hear it, like when I hear the Deep Space Nine theme, I'm like eating Devani's, and I'm 10 with my dad watching Star Trek because my mom has book club or something. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Evoking that sense memory there. Yeah. But who knows? I mean, they could fire up the Section 31 show, and it's. Let's do like an 80s thing. Let's do a Don't You Want Me Baby, like Human League sort of thing. Yeah, let's get crazy with it. If there's a 7 to 9 show, let's have just, it's just like Kenny G.
They're made for walking.
Soft jazz. Yeah, yeah, there you go. It's a Nancy Sinatra.
Yes.
It's Star Trek Pike, and the theme song is, you got that yummy, 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 just something like that. Just surprise us, kind of, toss it a little bit. Toss it up in the air.
Way out of left field.
Yeah. Let's see what we can get.
Oh, my God.
Well, we've just seen the 9th episode. It's going to be like this all night, I think. I'm a little punchy. We've seen the 9th episode of Star Trek Picard. It's an episode called Et in Arcadia Ego, Ego, Part 1. And we're here to talk all about it. But first, as always, a warning. We're setting a course for the spoiler zone listeners. So be warned. We're glad you've decided to join us. But if you haven't seen the episode, spoilers for the episode are incoming. The official synopsis of Et in Arcadia Ego, Part 1, is following an unconventional and dangerous transit, Picard and the crew finally arrive at Soji's homeworld, Coppelius. However, with Romulan warbirds on their tail, their arrival brings only greater danger as the crew discovers more than expected about the planet's inhabitants. The teleplay is by Michael Chabon and Ayelet Waldman. Chabon we know. Ayelet is his wife, who is a novelist and essayist. She is also a co-executive producer on Star Trek Picard, and she was also a writer and producer on the TV miniseries Unbelievable, which she co-created with her husband and writer-producer Susanna Grant. The story is by Michael Chabon and Ayelet Waldman and Akiva Goldsman. Goldsman is the screenwriter of Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, and the episode was directed by Akiva Goldsman, who I guess is a director as well. The date for the episode is 23/99, as per usual, and there's a few interesting aspects to this episode. Et in Arcadia Ego, or Even in Arcadia, There Am I, is the title of two paintings, one by Guercino Barbieri and one by Nicolas Poussin, both of which feature...
Oh my god, I thought you were going to say Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage. Oh, even in Arcadia, I'm there. Oh. Both of which feature shepherds, or Arcadians in this case, contemplating death. The ego, or I in the title, refers to death, implying that even in the pastoral and carefree world of the shepherd or rustic, death is still present. Both paintings represent a memento mori, or a reminder of death, which was a common theme in artistic works of antiquity, reminding one that the pleasures of the world and the flesh are fleeting because Christians are party animals, man. This episode is one of 11 Star Trek episodes with Latin names. I'm going to read them all, just as an act of self-flagellation.
Yes.
We've got Sub Rosa, Dramatis Personae, Inter Arma Enim Silent Leges, Ex Post Facto, Non Sequitur, Alter Ego, Terra Nova, Vox Sola, Sivi Pacem Parabellum, and Et in Arcadia Ego Part 2. And grab the clock, it's time to stop! I think we've got enough.
You don't like the Latin titles?
No, aluminum, linoleum. Yeah, no. I think we're good on that. The sort of like mock, scholarship of having like looking up a title for something Latin drives me a little crazy. But I suppose this one fits. Also, I didn't see E.T. anywhere in this episode. Maybe he was hiding in the stuffed animals. I don't know. Coppelius, the name of Soji's planet, is presumably a reference to the short story by German author E.T.A. Hoffmann about a doctor named Coppelius who creates an artificial girl named Coppelia.
Oh my god, he was so clever.
Yeah, I think I could probably find that with a Google search too. That's it. That's all the interesting quote unquote facts. What did you think of Et in Arcadia Ego Part 1?
I wasn't overly excited like the entire episode. I wasn't super it didn't have my attention the entire time. Uh-huh. But there were parts of it that I was very excited by.
Does
that make sense?
It does. And it's only 45 minutes long compared to these sort of 55 plus ones we've had in past weeks. So if you weren't paying attention, you might have missed it.
Do you think it felt?
It felt super
shorter?
short. I didn't count the acts. Yeah, I didn't count the acts, but I was watching it, and at one point I had paused it, probably to yell, but maybe to write something down. And I thought that I had bumped the I don't even know what you call it now because it's not rewinding, but the forward backward skip button. And I was like, whoa, we're a couple acts ahead. And I rewound it, and it's like, no, it was only like a minute or two because the episode's almost over. I couldn't believe that the episode was almost over.
I thought it felt really long, but then I also was like, but nothing happened. to make it this long. Or maybe I was just
Right.
distracted. That it's like, now I'm like doing all my homework in my bedroom in my parents' house. So I'm just
Yeah.
like, when I leave my bedroom, I'm just like, oh.
This food is terrible, and the
Where am
portions
I?
are so large. Yeah, yeah. I was, as the episode opened, I was thinking to myself, watching the recap, that synths is a very general term. We don't even know what that means. We know that it means, presumably, life that was created by an organic, a sentient being, and not in the normal, fun way, like scientifically. And that could be somebody like Data, who is made of durotanium and has a positronic brain, or it could be somebody, presumably like the synths that we're seeing, somebody like Soji or whoever, because they still haven't told us, with all the exposition in this episode, I still don't understand what these people are made of, but presumably there is some organic element to them.
I mean, they haven't improved on Data. I don't
Well,
love
yeah.
any of these.
And we got the guys on Mars, the hell yeah guys, who are presumably also just artificial. So this is just
but not
like
sentient.
yeah, and I think it becomes very important because we're talking about a possible apocalypse by a advanced civilization that's somewhere out there who's here to protect synths. So before I start persecuting synths, I want to know what synths are, so I don't get like reapered.
Well, and what does it mean, like higher form of synthetic being? What is that?
Yeah.
I don't understand. How can you be a higher form of life is already kind of like nebulous, but then to be like, oh, it's a higher form of synth. I'm like, is it God? Is it God?
Synth God.
Like, then who, because if it's synthetic, then somebody made it. So if it's a higher form, like who made, like, I don't know.
Synthetic Jesus. That's my new band name. I'm going to not harp on there, try not to harp on this, but if you want to go with the Mass Effect thing, which this is exactly like, the Reapers are sort of a fusion of organic beings and synthetic technology that are an ancient race. But it doesn't matter. We open in the La Serena, and we're having a rough ride through the Borg conduit, which I got to say, I'm going to complain about a bunch of things in this episode, but those effects were pretty cool. Like, I like them traveling through the conduit.
Great.
Yeah, that looked really cool. I like that Agnes is under the table like, okay, all right, we're done. I'm done now. Let's stop. They hit the two-moon planet in the Gulian system. And, I don't know. We're here. We made it finally to the two-moon planet. And we're trying to figure things out here. Girardi wants to know if she's under arrest. And it kind of seems like, no, it's cool, I guess. You just murdered the one guy, and we understand your motives. That's fine. Narek arrives. I think I heard people talking before about, like, how could he have found them? And they throw a little line in about he must have followed our course and trajectory and projected where we would be. And so he found us that way. And we get into a fight.
Wouldn't he have had to go directly into the... Wasn't he already there? Like, he was within, like, he could see them when they went into the frickin' wormhole.
Right.
So he could have just been like, look, they're going into some kind of wormhole.
Right, yeah. Presuming that, the Serenia had a problem going through, but that he could survive the trip and everything, and he's got his little cloaking device, so it's a sci-fi thing. I'm not really worried about it. They have a little fight with him. I like the fact that in the future they still use the term fritzing. I've never heard Geordi LaForge say fritzing, I don't think, but Raffi describes his cloak as fritzing out. It turns out he's playing possum, and, here comes the cube. Let's just skip to the Borg cube comes out, presumably piloted by Seven.
I forgot how stupid they look when they move.
Oh, the cubes? Yeah.
Yeah.
But not as stupid as space flowers. A bunch of space flowers show up and grab on to every ship, which is presumably sort of a I guess it's violent to destroy a ship, but they don't shoot guns or anything. They just grab the ships, presumably causing drag and pulling them into the atmosphere.
I was surprised by how I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. It just grabs you and then your ship powers down and you can't like do anything. But then it's like, and now we just like yeet you directly into the atmosphere. And I was like, oh no.
Yeah, that could be a problem. And it does seem to be a problem. For the ship, which crashes. The cube crashes as well. I have in my notes this, I don't know what this was. I'm not sure if I'm referring to the chaos of the battle or Picard being, like, possessed or something?
Yeah, I'm confused by
what was going on there.
At first I was going to turn to my dad and ask him if he knew if
well, he can't tell you anything.
Picard still had Borg implants.
Yeah. Well,
and, if it was some weird thing like that.
I think I presume that he does. I mean, in episodes of TNG, they've talked about how you can never get everything out, but you can get most of the things out. So for something that opens the episode, we don't ever really go back to that. So who knows? Maybe it'll play a part in part 2. As Picard is unconscious in a post-crash, he is flashing back to leaving Earth. I'm not sure if there's anything significant there or if they were just setting up the sort of bad diagnosis he got from his original doctor on the Stargazer. He wakes up in the sickbay. The ship is out of power. Agnes tells Picard that something's wrong with him, and there's not too much of a weight on that. Picard is a man of action. As soon as everybody regroups, Picard tells everybody, I'm taking Soji out of here, and I'm also going to warn whoever we find about the Romulans that are definitely on the way. And oh yeah, I have a brain abnormality. It's terminal. There's no treatment. I don't want to talk about it. If you treat me like I'm dying, you're going to piss me off. End transmission, essentially.
Oh, because when he had the flashback, then I was like, and then he started talking about the brain thing. I was like, okay, so are we supposed to think that, like, he's just, like, a little weak, like, his brain isn't really up to it, and so the G-force, like, he knocked out, but then he was having, like, a flashback to Earth, and so when he was talking, he thought he was, like, talking on, like, I don't know.
Oh, like he was in that, of that scene, maybe.
Yeah.
I think they're just reminding us because we haven't done anything with it in a while, and we will be doing something with it next episode. TV writing. Agnes wants to know... of Soji, if the synths hate humans, which I think is a fair question. And Soji says no, but we don't get too deep into it. We learn that the Romulans will definitely be here soon, as the crew gets their little backpacks and presumably their Lunchables and everything, and they're getting ready to head to the settlement that they crash land right next to, because that's how Star Trek works. They also notice that the artifact, the Borg cube, has crashed. And there's a decision that's set up that I honestly think they should have just passed on, but they have to decide whether to go and see if everybody in the cube's okay or continue in their quest, and they choose to go to the cube. Picard says that hope and the odds make poor bedfellows when he's told that odds are everybody's dead, and it's a very Picard thing to do, I guess. But it's really just like, let's get this thing to 45 minutes. Let's stretch out the plot here. Check the cube. Because when they get to the cube, yes, of course, Elnor and Seven are fine. Seven sensed when they opened the conduit that they were going to do that when she was plugged into the artifact, and so they followed them. And they used the Borg cube scanners to learn that 218 warbirds are on their way, which is a lot.
It's not that many.
That's got to be, there's presumably thousands of ships in like Starfleet and in the Romulan Empire. And this whole time, we've been thinking of the fact that, Romulus and presumably Remus are destroyed, but a star empire has many, many, many worlds. So it's not that the Romulans are demoralized. I'm sure some lost their homes, but there's probably a Romulan base of power still. There has to be, because there are 218 ships that are headed to destroy Capellius. And this is all well and fine, but if Elnor and Seven are going to run in and save people again in the next episode, presumably as the cavalry, we could have just saved this for next episode, right? If I was Jerry Ryan, I know they're kind of filming these back to back, but if I was Jerry Ryan and you called me in for like one day, I'd just be like, can't I just like show up later? Oh, she's alive.
This episode, like, you kind of touched on this, but it's just like, they're just setting up other stuff.
Yeah,
like,
well, it's part one of a Trek two-parter.
Yeah.
But this is like the most part one of a Trek two-parter that ever part one of a Trek two-parter did. Picard basically says for the millionth time, no, Elnor, you stay here. They need you. Sorry that I ripped you from your home.
Stay in the house, Carl.
Yeah, right. And I made you fulfill this oath that you took, but it ain't going to be with me. Stay here with the XBs. You and Seven will get your own spin-off. I'm sure it'll be great. And
I
they
just
go.
want to sidebar real quick, and just say that I'm grateful for and or jealous of whoever gets to light Jerry Ryan in these scenes like she's
Oh.
an angel.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great to see her in, it's strange, but it's great to see her in real clothes.
Yes.
She has like pants
Can you
on
imagine?
and a jacket.
Can you imagine if she showed up in that same thing, just like, hello? We'd all be like, can we have a break?
Yeah. Yeah, when she plugs into the cube, like another drone comes out with a, a thing on a hanger, like,
Like a clothes hanger. It's like steaming her old jumpsuit. Oh my God.
So they head back to presumably where the other synths are, and they show up there. And this place looks like a spa or like a retreat center or something. I'm trying to think of like what this practical building actually is, but it's kind of nice. There's a bunch of people playing soccer and hacky sack and 3D chess. They all have gold skin and weird eyes. They reminded me of Adam Warlock from the Marvel Comics. And there's lots of twins, and we get the idea that that's it. We're here. We found the place that we're looking for. They welcome our ragtag group.
The gold ones. The
gold
gold. Some
people.
of them were more. Some of them were way more gold, and some of them were way less gold. Like it was
Some
like
of them got more time in the makeup chair.
We're
Yeah.
kidding. Yeah. So
The airbrush
Yeah.
broke. The compressor broke at some point. Yeah, in the morning. And they check out Picard's wrinkles. He's got wrinkles. They've never seen this. And out walks Brent Spiner, who introduces himself as Alton Inigo Soong, presumably the son of Dr. Noonien Soong.
That was sweet. I didn't expect to really feel something when they were like, and now here you go. It's Brent Spiner. But he walked out, and I was like, oh.
Yep. I got a touch of that as well, but immediately it was swept away because we had to keep moving. And in fact, this entire episode just feels like warp speed exposition after exposition after exposition.
Right.
Yeah. I know that they want to keep the mystery for like the end, but what if any of this was in the previous episode or an episode before? What if we weren't just moving from place to place to place to place? He immediately talks about
a short season too.
Yeah, well, that's true. It's only 10 episodes. He immediately talks about how the synth band kind of drove Maddox a little nuts, and that is presumably what was behind his plan of creating Daj and Soji and sending them out in the world to sort of on a secret mission to find out more about the roots of the attack. And surprise, surprise, a gold Soji appears. We find out that this is Sutra, Janna's sister, and I don't know. Right away, I didn't trust her. I don't want to use hindsight here, but I was like,
it's Soji, but she's like sexy. She's got a weird like TOSO, and
kind of
vampy, moves real slow. She kind of walks on like a cat. Comes out. It's great.
Weird earring, little midriff showing. Yeah. And
but on the sides, no belly button.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the side cutouts. Yeah, a real William Weartice situation. And because no belly buttons on 60s TV. No. And Girardi's like, all right, face it straight. What's up with the admonition? Like, why are we here? What's the situation? What's going on? And they theorize in between Alton and Sutra that perhaps this admonition, this message, has driven these Romulans crazy because it's not for humans. It's for synthetics. And so the solution behind this is, let me see it. Let's mind meld. And once again, this is why I don't feel like I'm being unreasonable here, but I need to understand how this works. Yes, I know Spock mind melded with a nomad in a computer. I know that we've seen things like this before, but are their brains gooey or crunchy? Like what is it?
I don't yes. So the mind meld is supposed to be like, is telepathic the right word?
Yeah.
Or is it so like if Romulans and Vulcans have this thing where they're kind of telepathic, then what in he's like, oh my god, she learned how to do it. It's amazing. And I'm like, then why doesn't every like captain in Starfleet learn how to do it? if it's like that, you know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
get she's supposed to be better, but she's also, like you said, crunchy. So what,
Well, presumably there is an underlying telepathic talent that you must possess to do it, which is why, like Romulans can't do it, because in their genetic heritage they have the potential, I suppose, for the telepathic ability, but they don't have the discipline, and it's atrophied. So perhaps just the perfectness of her, this Adam Warlock lady, allows her access to telepathic gifts. I don't know. The point is, this is where we are in the story, and we need this to happen. And so it happens. And what we learn from getting the entire message, again, this is a Mass Effect thing here, having a message locked in somebody's brain, is that organics will perceive synthetics as a threat and get all worked up, and that's a problem, will ultimately destroy them. So there is some higher power that has sent this message, some advanced form of synthetic life that is waiting, presumably in intergalactic space, to come on in and protect synths when they evolve and when they ask for this help. Which tracks. That's pretty much what we had, I think, on our list.
it's, maybe I'll be less confused next week.
Probably, yeah.
Like, I'm just a little, I don't know.
This all is interesting to Soji, and she says fascinating, but didn't Data say intriguing often? So whatever.
But she's into Vulcan culture.
She's into Vulcan stuff, and she's just really going through like a Spock phase right now.
She's super like quirky. Like really, it's like I read like Serac, so like it's totally different. It's a whole other thing.
Right. You guys know this painting at an Arcadia Ego? Yeah, it's great. In another scene, Agnes asks Alton about Maddox, and we get pretty much the only castigation she's going to get, I guess, which is like, gosh darn you killed a really smart guy, but now you can be that guy, I guess. So that's how promotions work on this planet. And to me, like, Maddox, is Maddox a big loss? He seemed kind of like a prick.
I think that it's that thing where you're like a genius, but you're mean, so everyone ignores that you're like a little bit of a prick, but like, oh my god, you can make like a robot, so it's like fine.
Oh my god, you can make a robot. Please.
It's like, oh my god, that's
abuse
so cool.
me more emotionally. Yeah. Bake all the cookies you want, you weirdo.
Like, actually nice. Okay, he's just like a little. He's just like way too smart for it. So like normal stuff, he's just like a little mean, but it's fun.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. we'll put up with it. Like Sherlock. Yeah. Alton says, "Hey, check this," and he shows her a thing. We don't know what it is. It looks like a unformed sort of body. I think she describes it as a golem because. All right, Michael Chabon, come on. Yeah, we get it. You're Jewish, but and we talk about mind transfer. Which can we just do the theories right now? Picard's going in that thing, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
The second she said that, I was like, they're gonna cast somebody new to play Picard. That's crazy.
Oh boy, I wasn't even willing to go that far, but
really? You think that they would that's the whole bit, right? They're gonna cast somebody that like young and fresh.
Data saved Picard. Now Data's legacy will save him again. You know, that sort of thing.
Yeah. If they
Are you mad
imagine
yet?
just imagine they try to cast, I'll lose my freaking gourd.
Well, they could just, maybe the golem just looks old, like Patrick Stewart does, and we get rid of the they refuse to say Irumodic syndrome for some reason. I don't know if this is another they don't want to give money to Ron Moore or whoever wrote All Good Things, but if it's so important and it's so clearly going to be part of the climax of this, then why be so vague? That's what I want to know.
That's a good question. Can we just your dream cast for a new hot young Picard with a new body?
That model that everybody thinks that is Patrick Stewart, that they keep sharing that black and white picture of him. You've seen that, right?
No.
There's this guy. Crap. You can just Google it. It's like there's a black and white picture of a model who does look like a young Patrick Stewart, although he never had that much hair. Just get that guy. I don't know. Or like, gosh, somebody who was on Fringe, possibly, right? Because it's the whole like J.J. Abrams connection.
This
Oh,
guy,
God, Pacey.
look at
Pacey.
this guy.
We'll get Pacey from Dawson's Creek.
Oh my God.
He was on Fringe. I don't want to think about it. Soji says, "All right, well, tell you what. Let's go. We'll or is this the part? I can't remember. I don't think so. Soji doesn't want to fight, and Sutra's like, no, we should fight totally. And guess what? Here's Narek. We found him. He crashed, of course, too. And what are we gonna do with him? Who knows? We cut to Agnes playing with the cat. She tells us the cat's name is Spot 2. That's a Simpsons joke. That's not even. That's purely just a hey look. That's the most hey look that this show has ever gotten.
Just sometimes something happens in an episode, and I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to hear what Aaron has to say.
Every week, I wonder what's going to turn me into Doomcock. You know, Doomcock on YouTube. What's the last straw going to be? Like, what's going to make me black pill on this? Because it kind of feels like Spot 2 is that moment for me. What's going on with the Orville? You want to do an Orville show?
Complete, like, just 180 degrees.
It's a lot to put up with. We can talk a little later at the end about our theories about why this is happening. But anyway, this little scene heals up the Agnes and Rios relationship, which I don't think anybody really cared about. But if you do, things are cool with them.
They didn't. They never really had a real moment to me. It's like he was like, "Let's kiss," and she was like, "No, I know when I am making a mistake."
Yeah, right. Yeah. So anyway, things are great there. He doesn't like cats though, so that might be a problem. Goldie, who is the name, as far as I'm concerned, of the one lady, the android lady, whose real name I don't know, gives Raffi a device that will fix the ship. Because she just says it just will. And Raffi... Raffi gives JL a hug. We have a weird scene between them where she tells him that she loves him. And he eventually says that he loves her too. And they're like, okay. And that's it for that.
For a moment.
Yeah. And did you ever get the feeling that their relationship had to be like that? I don't think it's romantic love, but
no.
You know, I don't want to see Riker tell Picard that he loves him.
I think that it makes sense for them because they were close, and then it was like so rocky, and then it's like she had this thing where she was acting like she really hated him. So I feel like hearing that he's going to die soon, she was like, "Wait a second, wait though."
Yeah, I hope that she doesn't die soon. I mean, like, I'm thinking back to like Discovery finales and body counts, and they're never like that high, but we usually lose somebody, you know, to kind of keep the tension up. And I think she might be on the list. Picard, she goes back to the ship to fix it up. Presumably she'll be back next week. Picard goes to call Starfleet for help and doesn't hear anything from them, which seems troubling. We cut to Narek, who is locked up in what looks like just like an alcove, just like a shape, like the building just is kind of curved there, and they stuck a force field over it. But whenever he's asking his jailer Goldie for water, and she's like, okay, but Soji's like, no, don't do it. And Narek really badly tries to reach out to her, but sucks. Like, if you ever thought he was a manipulator or a good one, maybe not under pressure, because he does. Yeah, it's awful. The show really sells him out, I think, big time. And she's like, "You're gross," and he's like, "All right, well, they're gonna blow you up anyway, so good." And she's like,
"No, I don't care because you're gonna die anyways."
Yeah, well, you're gonna die. But she's like, "No, I don't think we are." And so she leaves, and he notices Goldie's pin, which is like a hummingbird pin. Is that going to set up what happens to her later, I guess?
Besides her getting stabbed in the eye?
With the pin.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why that was necessary, but anyway. Soji goes to Picard, asks about the logic of sacrifice, and they continue to have a conversation about whether killing is okay. I mean, it's okay, I guess. But I mean, I think we know Picard's like what his view is going to be on this. Sutra shows up at Narek's cell and she dismisses Goldie. And this is where it begins. She opens the door and she says, I really want to kill you, but I need your services. And she lets him go. And we find out that somebody, I think it was Sutra, but somebody has stabbed Goldie in the eye. So she's dead, I guess. Like if you stabbed Data in the eye, fine. If you stab Soji in the eye, I bet she'd probably be okay. Why does this girl like instantly die?
Maybe, well, she's an older model.
Okay.
So maybe she's just maybe she's just shut down for a bit.
I don't know.
Like,
Alton seems pretty pretty sad.
Yeah. I mean, but he was like, oh my God, her eye.
Yeah, I know.
A golden eye. So, like, maybe it's just her eye. He's like, and then did you see her body laying on that slab behind that big, like, meeting? So he's like, I just haven't gotten around to booting her back up yet, but we'll get there.
Yeah. And this is this is supposed to precipitate, a galaxy-ending war between two parties, but go. We got to get through this. We just blazing through this. I don't know why this couldn't have been 55 minutes. We go back to a meeting between all the that's where we are. A meeting between all the synths. Sutra's like, all right, this is it. We got to call for the Reapers to get here and defend us. The Federation's no different than the Romulans. We have to survive. And Picard's like, guys, we have a ship. We'll just get you all on the ship. We can go wherever. We'll fly to the Federation, get some help. And we get a kind of heel turn from Alton here. He's like, no, that's not going to work. I mean, I've been watching this show. Nobody's listened to you for the entire series. Put him under arrest. Which is like, what?
Citizen's arrest.
Citizen's arrest. Grab that old man. And Soji's like...
I know, grab that ancient person.
Yes. Take his Werthers away. Soji's like, yeah, I think you're probably right. And Jurati is like, yeah, I think you're right, too. I love Kool-Aid. Give me more. But I think that we can assume that she's got other plans.
Who, Soji or no, Agnes?
I think Agnes is on the side of the Angels still.
Oh, yes. You think she's going to boot up that golem to kick some butt?
Ooh, a big gooey golem kicking butt.
Yeah.
Got
she
truth on his
plugs in
forehead.
just like an Xbox controller, and she's like, yeah.
Knowing this franchise's track record of low budget props, I could see that happening. Like a little drone controller, yeah.
There's just like some tape over the logo. It's just painted over.
Yeah, pretty much. So they dragged Picard away, and it looked like, I couldn't get a close look, but their two bald guys dragged him away, and I think they were the same actors who played the Mars synths, the Hell Yeah guys.
Right?
Which would be...
They looked really... Yeah.
I think it makes sense because it's like, all right, guy, we got an actor or a pair of actors who can act kind of robot-like, bring them back in. But it just raises more questions for me. Like, why do the Mars synths look like that if there are Maddox synths on Coppelius that look like that too?
The Mars synths were much paler.
And they had names like Fate. Oh, God. F8. That's the end of the episode. Thank God. In our look at next week, we see the Romulan fleet heading for the planet. There's a giant warbird because that worked out so great in Nemesis. And we see O commanding it, and she's gone full like Giorgio here. She's in like the black leathers. And I'm like, did she just take like a vacation? Is she on PTO from Starfleet or something? Or is that over now?
She's like, I haven't taken any vacation the entire time I've worked here, so I have about 2 years of time saved up, and I'll be starting that right now.
Oh, my grandfather died, and Vulcan customs are so weird, so I'm going to need a lot of time. Sorry about this.
It's going to be like a 6-month funeral, so I just got to go.
Oh,
so sorry.
This was rough for me. This was a rough one. I'm not going to lie.
Didn't it release you from your quarantine a little bit, though? The pacing that I did around the living room was a real good exercise for me after being inside for so long.
There's a thing, this is just a theory that I have, but there's a thing that when you get, okay, so Brett Spiner, great actor, we know this. And when you like see him speak, or you see him in, I don't know, Boat Trip or something like that, you realize like what great acting he's doing as Data by sort of not acting, you know, like playing a character with no emotions, like really great. And I can see how that might get kind of boring. So he always wants to do, hey, I'm Noonie and Soong, or I'm a bunch of cowboys or something. Every time Brent Spiner isn't playing Data on Star Trek, it's not good. Like Lore,
I think that they also
Lore's
they give
okay.
him these,
Lore's
like,
is kind of a pass.
Lines.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I guess. I don't know. Every time that he is doing a thing, I just it's not like he's playing Data. It's a mitzvah. He's not playing Data. It's a Shonda. We don't want this. Like it's always something weird, and that's what we've got here in this episode where he's like, hi, I'm Dr. Soong number 2, and I'm also kind of a jerk and maybe evil, and I don't know. I would have rather had it be Lore. What if it was Lore? What if they show up and they're like, wow, this seems...
Lore's body is on Earth.
Is it? We don't know that. B4's body's on Earth. We don't know where Lore is.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah. So what if it's just like, oh, this is great. We're playing frisbee golf. It's who's in charge? Who's in charge of this mess? Oh my God, it's Lore. He's like, don't worry about it. Everything's cool.
He just punches Picard straight in the face.
He just immediately strings him up.
Gold fist towards the camera, and then cut to black.
That's a Akiva Goldsman move right there. Oh my God, they're all Goldsman. Oh my God, we can't talk about it. So I just like trying to, now that we can look back and see where we've come to get here, episode 9, one more episode left. This is Data's legacy. It's a bunch of like murderous hacky sack kids and cloned pets.
Like, is it his legacy that I still don't? I feel like we still don't know how much involvement he had.
No, they talked
what they used.
Yeah, they talked for so much time in this episode, and I still don't feel like I have any answers. But anyway, presumably, you know, it's his legacy because they were created from his positronic neurons or whatever. They went out to the wreckage of the scimitar with a dustbuster and Maddox, and also Noonie and Soong's kid were like, yeah, let's keep this going. Let's make this world of like fun, cool, hacky sacking kids. It got a real culty vibe to me.
It was a little what was the one in Oregon where they wore the red?
Oregon?
The cult in Oregon.
Oh, Heaven's Gate?
No.
Oh. That's a fun cult. Wait a minute, there's more popular... How many cults do you know?
It's fine, don't worry about it.
You gotta get off Discovery Channel. Yeah, it just felt, I don't know, it's just like they're all hanging out. It was like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Next Generation.
The Rajneeshis.
Whoa. Oh, is this that Netflix thing?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, we're just playing games and eating together. And you're like, no, Sheila, you're putting salmonella in the salad.
Yes, right. Oh, just imagining Tex Watson with Geordie's visor on. I don't like this. I can't wait till Michael Chabon is gone. You know?
Oh my God, T.
I don't think it's been all bad, but
Aaron, careful the red dots on your forehead.
He's moving on
take the shot.
Yeah, he's moving on to ruin his own book, you know, in a miniseries, and that's probably good. You know, knowing that this was written by him and his wife. And Akiva Goldsman, you know, writer of Batman and Robin and Batman Forever. I don't care that he's got an Oscar. It just seems like 3 not great TV writers, all our powers combined to form like a bad Voltron.
Well, I'm supposed to hear about my Star Trek internship imminently, so I just want to say that I know you're doing your best, and it's so hard to start a new
disagrees
show.
With me. And the views of Caliban have nothing to do with the views of right.
But yeah, this episode not their finest work.
I mentioned. Well, I don't know. I mentioned like Fringe and J.J. Abrams before. It's this. This is. It's not just them. This is a big problem I feel in storytelling and like TV long form storytelling right now. This twists. Got to keep the secrets. Got to reveal things at certain intervals, or just not at all till the end. And it's just been a real problem, both in Discovery and this show. Star Trek is about ideas. It's about philosophies, and those philosophies clashing. It's not about who came up with who made the robot or who was in the ships that attacked Mars. We're going to see next week that Narek was in one of the ships or something like that. Like, it's not about that, and I don't care. And I still like that stuff, but if you gave us that stuff, parsed it out over the 10 episodes, then you wouldn't end up with just a dump episode, a ninth episode where it's just like exposition. Okay, got it, you got it. Okay, now let's have our huge drone fight like the end of the last episode of Discovery Season 2 or whatever we're going to get in this next episode. I just don't. I'm not turned on by storytelling like that. Like I don't care. Spot 2. That's Spot 2. That says it all.
Do you think this trend in television started with stuff like Lost?
Probably. Which,
I wrote this
J.J. Abrams joint.
Yeah, I wrote this really long paper one time about how much, like, basically Lost and, like, HBO influenced, like, modern TV and storytelling.
Really?
And, yeah.
First of all, what grade did you get?
A.
Oh, okay. All right. Then you can keep talking.
No, my papers get A's. My tests are more rough. And because it forces, basically my thesis was that like TV that is treated like a higher form of art, more like a movie in the way that they make it, so like it's higher quality, and then also is this kind of like mystery. It's like they're forcing their audiences to like actively participate in viewing it, so it's not like you're just sitting there and it's happening to you. You're like stitched in. And I think it's really like you said, it's like really popular for TV shows now to act like that because they're trying, and it works when it's a good TV show, but sometimes they're projecting they want people to be invested, and so to make that happen, they give you these questions without answers. But then sometimes it ends up being less satisfying because they don't have good answers, like the polar bear in Lost.
Well, yeah, but
it's like, oh, there was a zoo, great, like, okay.
That's just a physical phenomena, though. Like, there's either an answer or there isn't, like the polar bear. And they did come up with something. They were doing an experiment, Dharma, in the North Pole or something. But it was a dumb answer. But the cool questions, the good questions, don't have an answer. Does Data have a soul? Was it right for Picard to let Kamala, bond with him as the perfect mate, but then go off and just marry somebody else?
Oh, that's a good
point. Those are the
measure of a man.
Yeah, right.
Melinda.
I've been around long enough to have been, around in the BBS era, and we talked about every episode, whether they didn't run together. Like, we talked about episodes and it kept us engaged, and we weren't engaged because we were able to, like, who is that silhouetted person that looks a lot like Denise Crosby and has her voice? Is that going to be a Romulan that's Denise Crosby, Tasha Yar? It wasn't those elements that kept us coming back, and yet that's all these shows, they put everything on you coming back for that, and it's disappointing. And then you grout in the cracks with Spot 2s.
Well, it's also like adapting, like Star Trek, not to be like a zoomer on Maine, but comparatively, Star Trek is a pretty old television show, and it's a pretty old idea. Yeah. And so then to have to like turn and like try to take those ideas and make them for a modern audience and make them in a way that's going to have like not only the old fans like be engaged with it, but like kind of like capture new audiences and like new like attention that wasn't there before. Like, it's hard and it's wild.
Well, this is going on in a lot of realms right now, especially politics. this idea that do you continue to be who you are, represent yourself honestly, or do you change who you are and how you present yourself to get other people? And I would argue that there are some people who can't change enough, and there would be no point in changing because other people are never going to choose you or follow you or watch you to be something else. And I don't think that, like, you know, presumably Star Trek is doing well on CBS All Access and Discovery Picard, but I don't think people who have never seen Star Trek before are showing up because they got to find out what the secret of this girl is, and she's like comes from Data or whatever. Like, every plot point in Picard is leveraged so heavily on knowing something about TNG, knowing something about the main character, what the stakes are, why he's pursuing what he's pursuing. It it doesn't to try. You don't need to hook us. Like, we're already hooked.
Do you think if they had a writing staff that was less, like, if they hired more people who, like, more like non-Trekkies, like, if the balance was, like, shifted, that they would be more likely to make a better like TV show overall? Like, do you think it's like the Star Wars reboots where it's like every single thing only carries emotional weight because of what happened before?
Well, I mean, Star Wars, I think, and Star Trek are dicey because we all are Trekkies and Star Waries or whatever you call yourself, right? Like they're so old and they're so ingrained in culture that you have to know something about it. And like Michael Chabon, he says he's a Trekkie, and I don't doubt him, but he's wrote a bunch of other books, and he's not exactly like a Trek TV writer. Same for his wife. Sidney Lumet's kid, like, I'm sure she likes Star Trek, but is she a Star Trek writer in the way you're describing? Like, Joe Menosky was on the first season of Discovery, and then he wasn't on the second. And I just think that, like, the people at Secret Hideout, like, have no desire to have any connection from an administrative or staffing sense to the old shows. I mean, David Gerald's out there, for Christ's sake. Like, if you wanted to get the spirit of the old shows. And I'm not saying you need the old people to do this. I'm just saying if you wanted to try to capture the spirit of the old shows by having the old writers out there, Renee Echevarria's out there. It'd be expensive, but, Ronald Moore's out there. All these people are out there still, but instead they're just staffing their ranks with all these people that they know and that they've worked on with other things, which is a totally normal thing to do. I just think that the people come in and they're writing TV scripts, not Star Trek scripts. There was an episode 1 or 2 episodes ago that was written by, can't remember the name, and it's probably, doesn't matter, but this person was like, had been a TV writer for 10 years in like CBS procedural TV, NCIS, CSI, that sort of thing. And she came in and she wrote an entry in a TV show that had been going on for a long time that was totally serviceable, but I just didn't see how it was Star Trek. It wasn't trying to examine the issues, the emotions and feelings that a Star Trek episode, as we know it or have known it to this point, tries to do. And maybe that's... Do you think... maybe that's gone. And if it is, we've got 50 years of material. We're spoiled for choice. I'm not crying that it's gone. But I keep coming to CBS Trek trying to get that, and I keep not getting that. Or at least getting it in just, just a drip feed. Yeah.
I mean, you're right. It's really, I mean, like, for me, I think that I like it more than, I think I like the new shows more than, like, a lot of people. And it's episodes like this that frustrate me in the same way you're talking about, where it's like, you have, like, for example, like the authors that have been, no bias, just honesty, the authors, maybe a little bit of bias, that have been working so hard for so long on writing this, like, really good Star Trek content, and they're having, like, this kind of episode that falls a little bit flat, written by people who haven't been writing Star Trek content for however many years. So yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see where they go, especially with all the new series. I don't know.
And I don't know who's in charge, and I don't know who's making the decisions. Like, I agree that...
Yeah, that's the other thing,
I'm on board with you, although you're biased, definitely, and I'm biased a little bit. Like, if you wanted to just pick, half a dozen Star Trek authors whose names I won't say and just throw them into a room, I'd bet you get some good stuff. But those people aren't television writers, and they're going to run into one of the problems that this show has, and Discovery has as well, is that it's relying on fairly inexperienced TV writers who are going to look to a showrunner, a head writer, for guidance that I don't know if we're getting. You know, if you do a Star Trek, if you do a TNG or a DS9, you say, what do we got? We've got this script, we've got these ideas. Brent wanted to do one of these things where he's a cowboy or something, you know. And then we've got a couple scripts that were submitted, and how do these fit? Are these Star Trek? Are these not Star Trek? The new way to do TV is, what's our season arc? You know, where are we going with this?
Yeah.
And if you're not really planning, you know, emotional beats out stories that satisfy people in a Trek way from week to week, which I don't think we are, then we're just falling back on what's in the box. You know, what's the mystery? How big of a peek do we get inside the box this week? And I don't know. Like I just, you know, my opinion isn't everybody's opinion, but in my opinion, you are, you know, wasting the time and talent of a lot of people who are working really hard on this show.
Yeah,
Yay.
it's yay, it's rough. One, then it's the extra added layer of like they're like using these shows to launch their streaming platform. So like,
yeah, of course,
who's making the decisions? That's like, this is what is going to bring audiences. Like, this is what is going to bring paying members to CBS All Access versus like an episode like Measure of a Man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know who's making those decisions. And of course, it seems similar, the situation, because of course, you know, the show was in syndication, you know, in like the 80s, and then later was the flagship show of a new network, similar to now, but it's a totally different situation. And I don't know who's making those staffing decisions. It's definitely not the same person or a group of people who made the decision or are making the decision to jettison, you know, the publishing wing of Viacom CBS in Simon & Schuster, but I feel like it's a similar decision. I feel like the people in charge are trying to, you know, when you put suits in charge, they're going to fly as low to the ground as possible. They're going to keep the overhead down. And so if you can get a writer who, yeah, this person's done a couple CSIs, they know what they're doing, that's who you're going to get. You're not going to get somebody who, I don't know, knows more about Trek, has bigger and better ideas. Brian Fuller has his own weird sort of trail of broken shows that he's left in his wake. But I mean, he's definitely somebody who was literally a guy that cut his teeth doing Star Trek and came in with some big ideas about mushrooms and stuff. And I think that whoever's in charge is not hiring those people.
Which also, and this is going to sound like meaner than I mean it to be, but like shows like CSI and NCIS, they are calculated to be exactly good enough. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Like, I'll watch NCIS as much as an expert. I mean, maybe not anymore, but like, I'll watch NCIS, you know what I mean? Because it's there, because it's on, it's always on. And it's always on, like, when you just kind of want to watch TV for a little bit and you're, like, eating really fast or something, you know what I mean? And it's, like, so it's very, I mean, I haven't seen, like, a bad episode of NCIS because they're all at least good enough. And so here and there, you'll maybe have some that are more action-packed or more emotional. Yeah. But they're good enough. And so when you take that formula and, like, try to apply it to, like, this like new Star Trek show, it gets more difficult.
Yeah, but what's ironic is that formula, that model is a very popular model. Yeah. And even on like, this is CEI edge. We're just talking about CSI now. But like even in something like CSI, you still have like this week's case. So somebody was killed, you know, by a forklift or something, and then we got to figure out who it was. And then maybe at the end, Grissom will find like some new clue for the season-long arc where he's trying to catch, you know, the bye-bye man or whatever the killer is.
Well, and that's why I didn't want to sound like mean. I'm like, this is going to sound mean. I don't mean it to be mean because they're clearly very successful. Like people like those shows for like a reason.
But you can even accomplish what I think a lot of fans have complained about, which is, where are the contained stories? You know, everybody, they do one in New Eden, and suddenly that's everybody's favorite episode of Discovery. And it just seems like if you don't know what you're doing or where you're going, or you've got some ideas, but you don't know what the audience is thinking, like, I think the audience is telling you what they want. And so I don't know why you can't shift to deliver that while still, you know, even from a mercenary point of view, still laying the groundwork for your STCU universe or whatever, where you're going to have a million shows on CBS All Access. I don't know where anybody's going. Nobody seems to have like a guiding, you know, force or a North Star here. We're on the planet of hippie datas, and I don't know how we got here.
You're right. It's also that, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of, like, I used to love the hit TV show Supernatural, right? And
okay.
And we can
please continue. Please continue. But I want to say before you start, because this is all I know about Supernatural. I watched Supernatural up until the end of season 5 when Eric Kripke left, and everybody agrees that the show just basically just went on autopilot after that. So continue.
Yes. And it's like, and I went, listen, they came here. They had like Supernatural Con in Minneapolis, and I went 4 years, okay? Like I did it. I met all of that. I did everything. And the people that I know from those conventions, I'll like see them and I'll be like, oh my God, I'm like 5 seasons behind, but I'm like still there to like have fun weirdly. And they're like, oh my God, you have to catch up. It's so good. And then I'm like, really? And then like behind their eyes, they start to like crack and they're like, no, oh my God, you really have to watch it. Like it's so good. You won't believe what happened this season. And I'm like, I don't know about that. And it's just like that thing where it's like, they're like, here's what you want, and it's kind of what you want. Like, they're distracting you. They're like, oh my God, shiny, literally gold, shiny robot here. And everyone's like, oh, yeah! And then you're watching it, and you're like, this isn't really, like, it's not really working.
But they're stands, though. You know, they're the kind of people that will follow Jared Padalecki to the Walker, Texas Ranger reboot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. But, I mean, definitely... Supernatural. Welcome to Supernatural Edge is a show that you know, was kind of taking things like the X-Files and things that already sort of existed and going interesting places with them. Maybe not 15 years worth of interesting places, but
no.
Oh boy, we're lost. I think we've
no. Let's talk about the first 5 seasons of Supernatural.
Okay, all right. Well, here we go. All right. So when when Dean ended up in hell, how did he? No, I don't know.
Listen, he crawled back out. No, Cassiel grabbed him. God, it's like a trap in my mind.
Yeah, I don't know. I gotta get back to that show. Maybe give it another chance. I think we've beat up on Star Trek enough. I think for the night.
I love you guys. Hire me. Everything's fine.
Yeah, sorry. Well, that's it for our show this week. Thanks for joining us, listeners, if you're still there. If you like what you hear, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at EISTPOD for updates and to get notified when new episodes of both Enterprising Individuals and Discoverage are released. And you can tweet to us on the show using the hashtag Discoverage or email us at eistpod@gmail.com. Also, while you're on the internet, please go to your listening platform of choice and subscribe to our show feed. Give us a rating and a review because it really helps us out. We've gotten a few more ratings on iTunes recently, and we really appreciate it. So keep them coming. If you want to help the show grow, you can stop by our Patreon page at patreon.com/EISTpod. And as always, if you like the show, tell a friend. Discoverage will be back on March 26th for the 10th and last episode of Season 1 of Star Trek Picard, entitled In Arcadia Ego Part 2. That episode will also be directed by Akiva Goldsman. Can't wait for that. We'll be going live once again at 7 p.m. Central or thereabouts, so join us then. And you can follow us on Twitter or Facebook at EISTpod to get notified when we're live and broadcasting. In the meantime, hey, check out our main show, Enterprising Individuals, at enterprisingindividuals.com. Every Wednesday on the show, I'm joined by a special guest to discuss in excruciating detail a selected episode from a Star Trek series. We also have news from the Trek sphere and interviews with special guests, and we discuss really a lot of the things that we've been discussing tonight in terms of the issues talked about in Trek and the soul of the show. Our latest episode dropped yesterday. On the episode, I talk with New York Times bestselling author David Mack about the DS9 episode, It's Only a Paper Moon, which he co-wrote, of course, and we also talk about the life and career of Aaron Eisenberg on that show. You can check that out at enterprisingindividuals.com. Ella, thanks as always for joining me to talk about this episode of Picard. Remind people where they can find you online.
Thank you. You can find us at generationsgeek.com or generationsgeek on Twitter, Instagram, and wherever you listen to podcasts.
All right. And stay safe and stay healthy.
Yeah, everyone, no touching. Just slap people with a pool noodle if they get too close to you.
Touch nothing is the word of the day, yes. And that is it for us. Thanks for listening, and we are signing off. This is Aaron for Ella saying live long and prosper.